G'day everyone, welcome back to In My Shed. I'm BC. This will probably just be some shorts of what I'm catching up with this week. I'm just doing a little electrical blanking plate for the motor on the cylindrical grinder, and I've been doing some work on the loco riding car, and that was really exciting fabrication, so I didn't bring you along. But I'll set the shaper up, I'll turn it on, get a bit of a close-up picture for the camera for you, and I didn't think you'd want to see me drilling a couple of 1132 holes. Bring it back in when the shaper's making some noise. Well, at least you missed the embarrassing part. I didn't realise it, but the parallels were about 1/2 mil wider on the workpiece, and bugger me, out it went straight into the shitbox. Just taking a little bite here because there's not much of a workpiece to grab onto. It's still showing the score quite a way in front of the machine. I don't know what the hell that hum is in the drive belt, but if the belt wants to fall off, it doesn't matter. Bit of therapy. I've just spent the morning with my gov and my ID. And I wasn't real happy with that. That is with the primary belt. Don't like noises like that. Take another millimetre, see what that's like. Yes, good old government department. The people are all beautiful. Once again, the system is bugging. Absolutely had it. Enough whinging. We'll fade it across. And in this case I'd have to agree that we'll make anything except money with the shaper, but I'm not here to make a quid. I'm here to use a bit of high-speed steel and get some machining therapy. Much needed after this morning. I've said it before, but info for those that haven't been watching the channel, that's a bit of Chinese-made M35 high-speed steel. Cobalt at 5%, not 8% like the M42, and by geez, it's hard stuff. It hangs in there without any trouble. It must have been a slow old job many years ago in a production machine shop. All these shapers doing a slowly job. Can you imagine trying to get wartime production out? Bloody hell. Anyway, that's how you do it with a shaping machine. I'll bring you back when something else happens. G'day guys, back again. I'm just proving myself wrong. I did the last clip with the shaping machine and I thought it's not a real fair comparison without doing a little bit of milling. And I've always been saying that the two are quite comparable. Well, actually they're not. This is probably only about 10 times as fast, but it just doesn't seem to satisfaction. There isn't a reciprocating tool. It's not old-fashioned. It just isn't me. But anyway, we'll turn the machine on, put a better cut on, and we'll compare this to the shaping machine. It does make a lot of noise, a bit like a rough fart. It spreads the shit a little bit further, not that that's the intention. Is there a lot of skill in doing this sort of work with a milling machine compared to a shaper? I think the shaper, you've got to be, for this sort of work, a much more skilled technician. You have to be able to sharpen the tools. You have to try and prevent the workpiece being projected across the workshop. I don't know, it's just what I do. So yes, I do have a milling machine, and yes, I can use it. I'm just old and old. This is also a very easy workpiece to do it this way. There's no even set dimensions, it's only a cover to go over a hole in the electrical connector on the motor. Just to replace a little cover that's gone for a little bit of a holiday. I probably could go a heck of a lot faster if I wanted to, but realistically, I don't want to. I should be working on the club riding car, but I just wanted a break from it. Besides which, the club riding car took a few teeth off my hacksaw blade. Gets me out of sorts with it a little bit. It definitely wasn't my fault. I wasn't a bit lax in my attitude. And this will probably be the last I'll take. But there won't be much material there. Yep, that'll do it for now. I'll bring you back when something else happens in the shop. Just so you could see what I was up to, as I said, it's a little blanking plate to go over the alternate lead entry port, I think you'd call it, for the cylindrical grinder. Obviously the old one got lost in transit, whatever, so I've just banged this up out of a bit of 6mm plate. Job's just about done. I'll just wait now till I've got the linisher or the disc sander outside again and finish it up, and then I can bolt everything together and give it some paint. Bring you back later. G'day guys, back again, another short clip, and all I'll have for you this week are a few short clips about what's been happening around the shed. I've been doing a bit more on the cylindrical grinder. I'll zoom you around and show you the covers that I've painted, and they come up quite good this time. The bigger surface of course being easier to get right. And also had a win with the shaper. If you go back a few episodes ago, I was trying to turn a bit of rail iron into an anvil for my young bloke who wants to become a blacksmith. Yeah, best of luck. And the material defeated the tool. There was a bit of hard skin on the rail from where it had been rolled, and nothing would get through it that I had. I tried to mount it up in the milling machine to have another go with some cutters I've got. But it's 3mm wider than the bloody vise, and it just got hard. I had to put my face plates up or something, so I brought it back to the shaper, and out of my library of raised tools, I've got an old carbaloy left-hand turning tool with only a small shank about 16mm square, and I think it's grade 883, which is, I think, the first of their microfine or micrograin carbides, and it was always what I suggested customers use to machine back EA600 half-facing or spray fused powders, the difficult materials. And like me, if it doesn't work, it still goes chunk as it goes over that hard bit in the skin, but it seems to be taking it in a stride, and I'm using this in the correct form, being a left-hand tool. So I'll put the spotlight on and bring you in for just a bit of a pass. I can only take 3/4 of a millimetre at a time because it's pretty tough stuff. So give you a demo soon. Okay guys, we're here on the CMZ 450L or L450 shaper. That's the little carbaloy left-hand turning tool, and I'm pretty sure it is carbaloy by the granny gold paint on it, what's left. I've just given it a little drink of Royal Tap-Tech tapping and cutting compound. I know I harp on about it, but it's just so damn effective. I quite like the product. And you can see what's left from the previous attempts, and that's after this tool has cleaned most of it up. This is where it gets difficult, so we'll have to come across until it gets there. It will quite likely skip, but all we can do is give it a try. Now I'll start the shaper up, put it into gear, make sure I've got oil coming up in the sight glass, and then I'll throw the feedback in. I'm running on 24 cycles a minute too. Yep. Gradually bringing it across. In this tough stuff you've got to go at it steady heavy. There we go. Until you get to that hard skin, it just peels it off fairly well. But if you notice, everything is chipping very, very short. And when I had another tool in a few hours ago, 2 days ago, it was throwing the chips up into the splash pan for the cylindrical grinder. Quite a spectacular effort with that. I'm glad I brought you over for this. It's probably going to be the last run I'll do on this job. It's showing that I'm pulling about 0.2mm feed rate of about 8 thou and 0.75mm that's the cut. It sounds about right for the job we're doing. So far the finish is quite acceptable. I was taking it in a stride so far. It may start to squeal soon. It's down about here, but it's getting into a hard skin. There it is. And the tool just goes through it. Not much excitement for you, but it was squawking for about 70mm along there last time, or a few passes ago. Okay, let's see if we can find something else to put on the camera this weekend. Once again, my grinding and fettling cart gets out to the doorway. This way I can share the noise with the neighbours. And yes, I will be wearing gloves. The only thing rotating is the disc, but it gets bloody hot on the work. There's nothing easier than doing it this way. And that's it. One little cover to go over a blanking hole, or blanking a hole, on the electric motor for the cylindrical grinder. Job easy done. So yes, I do have an assortment of grinders, but by geez, they come in handy. This is the end result of the painting from the last day or so. They're the motor cover and end plate for the cylindrical grinder. Got to figure out how the bloody cord gets out down to the power box. I don't know if there's any room left. They came up reasonably well. I didn't strip it right back, I'm not that fanatical, and I only paint with a brush, but yeah, it'll all look the same grey, which is one thing I like. Once again, that is the paint from down New South Wales, and Landner Tech. I'll have a look. Lacnum paints. I can recommend this product. It is really good, hardens off well in a couple of days, and covers extremely well. Okay, bring you back when something else exciting happens. G'day guys, back again. I've been missing for a few days, just been doing a little bit too much on the Clark riding car, a bit of superstructure coming up above the frames now, and lots of family work to do. So a few things move forward on the cylindrical grinder project. One thing I did, I'll zoom you in shortly, had to produce a bolt for the drive dog out of the faceplate, and I scratched through all the parts that came with the grinder and nothing seemed to fit. And it took me a fair while and a rummage through the spare parts catalogue, which is a bit like a dog's brekkie, and I found out that what I should have is 3/8 Whitworth left hand. There's nothing left hand come with it, and I had a bit of a think. I haven't cut a left hand thread for 47 years. Now that's not a bad record for being a lazy bastard, I suppose, and as a result, I'll show you this close up, it was all higgity-piggity. The threading levers on the lathe were as stiff as shit, and I finished up in between two gears and I decided to change gear halfway through the thread and chewed the shit around of it. So I turned it over, I threaded the other end, and without thinking, another problem I had, and this is to keep in mind, you're threading in the opposite direction, and it was starting off okay, but then not completing the thread. The back of the tool post was run up against the quill from the tailstock, so I managed to sort that out and produced a reasonable item. One thing I was surprised with, I put a 3mm wide escape groove, or a starting groove in this case because it's left hand, using my Yizcar parting tool with a bit of trepidation because it's a very thin part between centres, fair enough, but I thought I'd be climbing all over to work, and it was just perfect. For an indexable insert to be so sharp, I just carved out 40 thou deep, which is down to the root of the thread, and it worked very, very well. So I'll zoom you in so you can see a bit more of this. It's just got to be cut off and chamfered on the end, and a quite cheap and I think very, very good threading tool, and a system I've used for small grooves, etc., where you want to make a very, very cheap tool, but you want to go through the bullshit about making up holders again. So camera will zoom in and we'll get a bit more of a look. Okay, here we are a little bit closer. The workpiece is a bit of 4140 rod, and that's the chowdered end, and that's the workable end. Quite happy with the result. Finally, it's just got to be cut off and trimmed, as I said. Horrible material to get a good finish on when you're threading and turning, but it's what I've got a little bit of at no cost. Okay, there's the threading tool, just a bit of inch by inch square. I think I took it down to 20mm from memory. The hole is drilled in at 5 degrees, and if you use, I think it's a letter E drill, it's supposed to be about 1.5 thou undersides for 1/4 inch, but being a drill bit, it drills a little bit oversized, and the 1/4 inch tool just becomes quite a nice transition fit. Now it's already got the rake set at that angle, so you only have to grind the top of the tool at the same axis as the tool bit itself, and the rake's built in. Now I know that that's a bit of a rough way to do it, and you finish up with a slight change of form or an error in thread form, but for the sort of work that I do, like, who gives a rat's bum? I'm not making rocket ships or anything like that. I'll bring the tool out. I chamfer it for a little bit of clearance, and that is the locking grub screw for the tool bit. another bit of a view. Very, very simple build. I've made another one on the other hand, and as I said, I just use 1/4 inch round tool bits, and I can drop them in and change them quite quickly. I'll have one for grooving and one for turning. Interesting also was that tool was set up for right hand threading, and I use it for left hand threading, and the clearance on this side was only minimal, and it struggled. It did the job for me, but yeah, I may have to take a little bit more out. I will, however, then finish up with a very small included angle behind the tool, and for the amount of left hand stuff that I do, I might just not worry about it. Anyway, I'll take you over to the cylindrical grinder, show you where we're at. We're only a few hours work off pushing the button and making some sparks. Back in a sec. Okay, here we are, back at the grinder. A bit more to show you, then I'll zoom you in on the faceplate and show a bit of work that I've got coming up. These are the mount blocks that go into the base of the grinder. Bloody huge piece of equipment, but I'm a bit perplexed. If you're going to put your spanners all over it to adjust it, why the hell would you paint it out of the factory? So all of this will go on the wire wheel. There's 9 of these, and get a bit of a clean up, and then I'll just oil them up and throw them under the machine. And underneath these sit the steel plates that I did, that I prepared earlier. That's my point. That'll be a bit of work leveling the machine. I do have a machine level, which is a reasonable product. It's Geiger brand, and I don't know whether I mistreated it or whether it went for a bit of a shit in transport. I have never been able to get it to repeat. It shows that it's 0.02 millimetres per metre, and that's a pretty accurately level, but we'll have a bit of a play with that. That'll be in the next video, and as I said, I've never been able to adjust it to get it repeatable and reliable to get a decent reading out of it. Trying to get some water-soluble fluid. I don't want to go to a synthetic grinding fluid because I've seen that used on many machines of this vintage back half a lifetime ago, and all it does is remove the paint with some ferocity. Well, these synthetics, they may have improved recently, but they were always a bloody horrible thing in my past anyway. So I'll give that a go. It's just a reasonable, it says semi-synthetic. There's no such thing. It's either a mineral oil or it's an ester synthetic oil, and I don't think the two are really mixable, however you want to pronounce that. But we'll see how we go with it. I have spent quite a lot of time cleaning out what is a great big tub around the wheel head. It's a cast iron part of the body, about 5 inches deep, and it's where, or it's a splash guard I suppose, where all the water soluble fluid runs into. And of course when you turn the machine off and go away for the weekend, that all evaporates and becomes a nice hard tar and doesn't get dissolved again. And I don't think they ever put any cleaners through it. Now in some cases there were 2.5 to 3 millimetres of varnish like sludge in the bottom of the tray, and my cleaning brush just come out like a blob of jam. Bloody awful. But I've got that reasonably respectable. I do expect I'll have to sacrifice the first 10 litres of fluid fairly quickly to get it all up and running. Okay, I'll bring you around, show you the face plate and what I've got to do in the near future to make a backing plate for a chuck. Okay, this is the business end of the workhead, all freshly painted. I haven't proceeded with the rest of the painting and cleaning up. I've got to verify, as I said the other day, that this is actually going to come good. I don't want to put many more man hours into it, and proper cleaning and painting is just a horrendous big job. So I'll leave the rest of that out. Once it's proved itself, yes, then I'll spend the time and clean it up. This is a little bit of an explanation. This is the bit that rotates. You can operate it as a dead centre, and you get your best accuracy between two dead centres, and the reason is there's no bearing clearance or slop to get involved, and you've got to appreciate if the finest adjustment to the machine is 1/10 of a thou in feed, you don't want 1/10 of a thou of bearing slop giving you some grief with that accuracy. So there is an adjustment over the back that you can release the centre shaft from the turning spindle. So this is a spindle within a spindle, a coax setup, and in that case this centre just becomes a dead centre. The workplace rotates, but that wouldn't be of any use, it just keeps it oil filled. If you want to, you can unlock that setting, free this up, and then there's a hydraulic drive in there so that the centre will turn with the faceplate. And for doing that sort of work, you screw in the little beastie that I've just made, and I thought about coming up on a final pitch diameter, and this screw is probably still original, and I thought it'll be worn fairly badly, so I stopped a bit short, or a bit larger than proper final diameter, and I'm glad I did, because it's now a really good fit in there. I can cut it off and I'll be happy with the way that drives. And all I have to do now is put some screws, and these screws hold this front part onto the internal spindle. So nothing difficult about that. And it's just a little cover plate goes over the top. And the little buggers aren't as easy to drive. And it's all Whitworth. Thought I'd seen the last of that. I do like unified American thread, but Whitworth I've never been a huge fan. Okay, one job that I do have to do, this particular item is a thread protecting blank. When the chuck isn't in use, you screw that over the thread that the chuck mounts to stop any corrosion or any rubbish getting in there. So you've got a register, a outside diameter there, and then the thread inside. So luckily this part is factory. Yes, there's a shoulder inside there to register against as well, so you've got this diameter, the rear register, and the register past the thread that this butts up to. So I've got this to use as a test piece. So I'll be making a male thread this screws onto, and then I can use that male thread as the gauge to make the backing plate for the chuck that goes in there. So it's a bit of mucking around. I don't have that backing plate or the chuck to come with the machine, so I've got to make them. And it's going to be a bit of a, well, take care when you do the job, because as I said, if you want to do any accurate work, you've got to have an accurate machine to do it. So that's what we're up to. This centre, by the way, just knocks out with the bar up through the back, and it's only a stubby centre. There's no Morse taper tang on the back or anything like that. So that's what we've been up to. We're almost at the stage. I just had to screw that together, put a bit of soluble oil, and in the next video I'll bring you in when we do the startup. I'm not going to do that this video. I've got to clean up all those mounting pads and get the poor thing level, which will be the start of the next video. Okay guys, so from the best part of Brisbane up in Gibraltar, I'll see you in the next video. It's going to be 34 degrees today with somebody hiding in the bloody shed. All I can do, I think, to get away from the heat. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already.